Hello and welcome back to the JW Thoughts channel. My name is Wally, and today we are doing a roundup of everything that you need to know about the 2025 Pure Worship Regional Convention of Jehovah's Witnesses. I have made 14 videos about the convention so far. Those are like a 16-ounce cappuccino. This is going to be like an 8-ounce espresso shot. But if you're looking for anything in particular, you can go down to the description below and there will be chapters just marking subjects and dates. Or if you want that full cappuccino, you can go to a playlist that I have made where all of the videos about the convention are there. With all of that being said, let's do this. So the Friday morning kicks off with a music video presentation that was a little time capsule for me. It took me back to the days of running microphones at a congregation meeting and getting to the same person at the same time. And somehow the Jehovah's Witnesses made this an issue, made it a big problem where this guy's getting the stink eye and he's got some beef, some bones to pick, and he's got to go settle the score with this other guy. I don't really know what they were thinking when they made this, but it really gave me a laugh. Now, I am no stranger to very long introductions. I can't remember the longest one. I think my longest intro was 8 minutes, which is pretty spectacular, pretty impressive. But Watchtower really takes the cake on this one because they take 2 hours to do an introduction, nearly. It just goes on and on. There's an introductory talk basically previewing what's going to happen during the convention. That's really boring. And then you get Sam Hurd, who is sitting in front of a green screen, and he gives a little yap sesh about what's going to happen as well in this convention. And that leads right into the Jesus drama. Now, the sexy Jesus drama is more of a wet fart than a triumphant magnum opus. Watchtower was really trying to emulate the other version of a Jesus dramatic recreation called The Chosen. But the thing with The Chosen is it adds life and character to the biblical narrative. Watchtower makes the biblical narrative more boring and slow and tedious somehow. It's a very impressive exercise on just how pathetically delusional the Jehovah's Witness organization is. They really can't get anything right, but we don't really need to go into that. It's not very interesting. I made 2 videos about it and hardly anyone watched them. No one really cares. I'm going to think that most Jehovah's Witnesses don't even really care. Yes, sure, there's going to be your delusional aunt out there that's going to say, "Oh, changed my life. It was the greatest thing ever. I've watched it 5 times. But, you know, she had probably went through like 3 bottles of wine while she was going through the Jesus drama anyway. But we do not want to be going through 3 bottles of wine, so we're going to move right along into the next symposium, which I didn't actually make a detailed video about it because it is woefully and painfully boring. It's about Jesus and how there's fulfilled prophecies about him. What the Jehovah's Witnesses do, for those of you that don't know, is they find some correlation in the Old Testament and make that happen with something in the New Testament and say, wow, there's like 900 prophecies about Jesus that were fulfilled in the New Testament. And a lot of these are a real stretch. A lot of these are I can't even think of the word. Literary anachronisms that happen. It's a whole jumbly mess, but the Jehovah's Witnesses really try and put their foot down and make it sound like, no, these are fulfilled prophecy. This was someone receiving knowledge before it happened. The whole series of talks is rather boring and tedious, so we'll just skip right along into that. And then to close out the Friday morning session, we have a new governing body helper who introduces a video that's meant to show some Jehovah's Witness history, and in doing so, they have this insufferably insensitive segment on Malawi.
In 1967, the Malawian government declared a ban of Jehovah's Witnesses, leading to horrific persecution. Many fled the country.
We refused to compromise and fled to the refugee camp in Mozambique. In 1975, we had to leave the camp. When we came back, we faced the neutrality issue again. When we started to build a house, the party members came. They wanted us to buy political party cards. If we bought them, the family could have a home, our children would be allowed to go to school, we could fund the land. We wouldn't be arrested and experience the horrible condition of the prison camp. But it meant compromising. We were determined to be loyal to Jehovah. Compromising my integrity was not an option. We trusted that Jehovah would care for us. And he did.
Now, I've already made several videos about this, so if you're looking for a more in-depth discussion on this, you can check those out. But this really didn't sit well with me the longer that I thought about it. They had an opportunity to acknowledge a wrong thing that the organization did, this double standard that cost people their lives, that cost them their livelihood, that maybe cost them their moms or dads or even sons or daughters. And yet they just gloss over it. They just pretend like it wasn't really that bad. They point to this one woman who survived, and she says, I experienced Jehovah's protection. Does she actually say? They always, do these little dubbing things, so who really knows? But it's really foul and disgusting to just say, we really experienced Jehovah's protection in that instance. But what about all of the people that weren't protected? What about all of the people that were counting on the promises from Watchtower that they would be protected, spiritually or otherwise? You can't say you were protected spiritually because this whole thing is surrounded by a double standard of what was going on in Mexico. And people were allowed to bribe government officials and obtain a political party card. So you weren't being protected spiritually, and you certainly weren't being protected physically. So what are you talking about? I've talked about that a lot before, but that is how the Friday morning session concludes, and that transitions into the spiciest segment of the entire convention, and that is the Friday afternoon, where we get a new set of characters for a drama, and it has to do with listening to the voice of Satan and apostates.
Yeah. We're praying for that too. Okay. Hey, thanks, John. All right, bye. Hey, babe. It's about time for your meds.
My favorite one.
Hey, buddy. So what's your homework for today?
Math?
You need some help?
No, I think I'm okay.
Hi, everyone. We're back in town, and guess what? We got our house, and we had everything we wanted. His and her walk-in closet, heated swimming pool.
I'm excited. Chris and Nikki coming back in town.
Yeah, it's gonna be good.
How long's it been?
About 15 years, I think.
Wow.
Yeah. These women are barely wearing anything. How did this stuff even get on my feed?
Hey, Dad. Maybe I could use your help here.
Sure, yeah. Why am I still getting these posts? Satan always tries to exploit our natural desires, like he did with Jesus.
Dude's out here confused about how the algorithm works. Let me explain it to you there, fella. If you interact with something, if it's something that you stick around and look at, you're going to get fed more of that thing. So you can kind of dictate what is on your timeline and on your feed by what you're interested in. That's how it works. So the whole thing is just really cattywampus, to be completely honest with you. But they're just trying to set up all the different characters here. You have their old friends that are coming in, and they look to be living a very fabulous, wealthy life. Ooh, we got our house. And he's sitting over there with his arms crossed like, oh, it must be nice you can get in your house. Anyway, we'll see how this whole story develops because this is a little bit more interesting. We will just go through all of these.
You like that story. I have so many more about your dad to tell you. I have so many more. I can tell you right.
That one tonight. But speaking of back in the day, look what I found.
Oh. Whoa, that was you and Chris. Yeah.
What's that? Oh, Pioneer School. Oh.
That feels like a million years ago.
Well, hey, listen. Thanks for bringing dinner over.
Of course.
Happy to do it.
But I gotta go get some rest. Y'all keep catching up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Get some good rest, Shay.
Yeah, rest up.
Come in.
Hey, Sheila.
Hey.
How are you feeling?
Not good. It's been a rough week.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Well, if it's any consolation, you look gorgeous.
Oh, girl, I don't know about that.
You do. You really do. Let's take a selfie. I'll show you. Then you will
Really?
look gorgeous, Sheila.
A picture?
Yes. Come on, get up.
I'm a mess.
No, you look great. Wait, make sure we look good. This would actually be a perfect post for this group that I follow. You should join. It's for witnesses, and we share stories about our personal health journeys and spiritual thoughts. It is very inspiring. If people could hear your truth, you would be an encouragement to so many people.
I don't think anybody wants to hear from me.
Shayla, you really need to think more of yourself. When was the last time you really felt heard? Cancer has taken so much from you. Don't you want to feel better?
Here's a selfie of us and a link to that social media page. I think your story can go witness viral.
Hey everyone, I just wanted to share my daily scriptural tip with you guys. Thank you so much for following all of my videos.
Hey everyone around the world, I want to thank you so much for all of your prayers, and especially...
Hi everyone that may be watching. I just really wanted to share with you all my truth about this whole experience.
Updating friends and family is one thing, but this feels wrong.
If you are a son of God, throw yourself down.
Satan tried to get Jesus to draw undue attention to himself.
You must not put Jehovah your God to the test.
No matter what I'm going through, I need to focus on what Jehovah promises and not bring unnecessary attention to myself.
So the message here was very clear. Online groups are bad. Even if you are surrounded by other Jehovah's Witnesses, if you are interacting with them on the internet, it's inherently a bad thing. They need to associate that with some type of satanic proposition, as if you are only thinking about yourself, you're being selfish, which is a ridiculous thing to do, especially if you're portraying someone who has cancer, someone who might just need to have a friend group that she has access to for moral, emotional support, spiritual support from the comfort of her home. But they can't have that. She has to wait for the elders to maybe come around and read her a couple of scriptures once every 6 months. Yeah, that'll really get the job done there, Watchtower. It's a really fascinating look into what goes on inside the heads of Watchtower's minds, how they think that this evil thing of social media has no redeeming qualities, zero, even if it's a group of firm, hardcore believing Jehovah's Witnesses just getting together to tell their story, to connect with one another. They still are so short-sighted that they think that that is necessarily bad. They need to associate it with the voice of Satan. A very curious segment as part of this whole hootenanny here, but let's move right along.
That's great, yeah. Thanks, Mom.
So who wants dessert?
I'll have a little piece.
And I'm going to have a lot. So, Aiden, what you been up to lately?
Well, I'm about to graduate soon.
That's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can't wait. And, I'm thinking about applying to Bethel.
Okay, Bethel. All right, really?
Yeah, I've been wanting to do it since I was a kid.
Okay.
Bethel's nice, but you got to think about your future.
Yeah.
How will you support yourself, or how would you support a wife after Bethel?
You can still serve Jehovah right here.
That's true.
I know, I get it. When I was your age, they told me the end could come tomorrow, too.
Yeah.
But look at us. We have a real comfortable life.
And we're still witnesses, Aiden. You're so young and smart. There's so many opportunities open to you right now. It's nice that you have spiritual goals, truly. But you also need to be realistic.
He's being realistic.
Yeah, and there's a lot of ways you can serve Jehovah at Bethel.
Like what? Washing windows?
But if it means putting Jehovah first, is there anything wrong with that?
Of course, nothing's wrong with that. It's just that he could have so much more.
Anyway, lunch was amazing. Thank you so much, Shayla. I can't believe you did all of this for us.
Satan has always done this. He tried to tempt Jesus with what the world could offer. But Jesus didn't focus on himself. He focused on Jehovah and doing his will. That's what I'm gonna do.
Submitting your application may open a door of opportunity to serve Jehovah and his organization in a variety of ways.
So even those that are members of the congregation believing Jehovah's Witnesses might still have the voice of Satan, because they might do the unthinkable and tell you an objectively true fact. This guy lived the experience of people telling him the end was right around the corner. The end still hasn't showed up yet. And judging just by their ages here, if their parents were witnesses as well, their parents as well were told the end is right around the corner. So now this kid is looking at potentially 3 generations of people that have thrown their lives away, waiting around for the end to come, and it hasn't showed up. And this guy correctly identifies you can still serve Jehovah. You can still be a spiritual person. Doesn't mean you have to go and abandon all of your beliefs. You don't have to become an atheist and doing drugs and picking up prostitutes or anything crazy like that. You can just have a future. You can focus on yourself. You can still serve God while also being comfortable in this life, because the whole living as if the end is right around the corner has been an objectively wrong decision to make. It's been wrong. It's been stupid. It's been a waste of time. He is telling him something true, and yet Jehovah's Witnesses want, or the leadership of Jehovah's Witnesses want these just objectively true facts to be seen as the voice of Satan. This will inevitably ruin people's lives.
What's wrong?
I'm worried about them. They're different.
Yeah. I kind of felt that too.
You know, whenever I ask him how things going in the congregation, he won't give me a straight answer.
Really?
And he's always shifting the conversation to something negative about the organization.
How? What are you gonna do?
I don't know. But I sure hope I'm wrong.
Hey, Justin, I want you to read this article I just sent you. It's going to change the way you see the organization. Get back to me. Did you get that message I sent you?
Why would you send that to me? Better yet, why are you reading that garbage? It's all lies.
Garbage? How do you know if it's garbage if you haven't even read it?
Listen, you need to talk with your elders, because you need help. And if you don't speak to them, I will.
Wow, that's what you feel. I need help. I don't need any help, man. I'm finding the answers to my questions, bro, and I'm keeping an open mind.
Open mind? You're ignoring Jehovah's thinking. The truth saved our lives.
Look, man, how long have we known each other? I would never steer you wrong. I'm not out to hurt you. I'm trying to help you. How long have you known me?
Tell these stones to become loaves of bread.
I'm trying to share with you the truth.
Throw yourself down.
You really think I would steer you wrong?
I will give you all this authority.
I definitely don't need any help from them.
Do an act of worship before me. Go away, Satan.
Stop. There's only one truth, and it comes from Jehovah.
You're gonna walk away like that? What are you so afraid of? Man, stop being a coward.
And that section has no doubt been the most viewed and most talked about thing from this entire convention, so is there anything really left to say about it? Probably not. I do think it's really funny, though, how he's just actually getting in the car and putting it in reverse. Something about the visual of that really just makes me laugh. Anyway, everything that can be said about that has been said, so let's move right along. Now, the next part of the Friday afternoon session was our favorite little fake Bible scholar going around in Israel and looking at some rocks and plants and seeds and trees and things and talking about stuff from the Bible. I don't know. I tried watching these 3 times and they were really boring. I felt last year The ones he had were moderately interesting, but these were just really painful. Maybe somewhere down the line I'll make a video about them, probably not. But anyway, yeah, we won't get too worried about his little shenanigans. Then we have new governing body member Jacob Rumpf, who gives a excruciating talk that I swear I've tried to listen to it 4 times, but my mind wanders and drifts. He did say one interesting thing just because it made me laugh.
Another Bible example, Zacchaeus, a chief tax collector. Now, he was a chief tax collector. The study note says that means that he was in charge of many tax collectors in the region. And in this account in Luke chapter 19, he's described as rich. And by his own admission, at least part of his wealth came from extorting money from common people. So on the outside, would you see this man Zacchaeus as a righteously disposed man for everlasting life, someone that would come into the truth? Maybe not.
So on the surface, it didn't appear Zacchaeus was in the running for everlasting life because he extorted money from vulnerable people. Watchtower extorts money from vulnerable people by putting donation boxes outside of refugee camps. Kind of a head scratcher, that one. The only other interesting thing in Jake the Snake's talk was he showed a clip from a Gilead graduation. There was like an interview with these 2 people. They were pretty mundane. But he showed a little clip and had Stephen Lett. And so, seeing an old picture of Stephen Lett when he was young and sprightly, just starting out on his journey of being a cult leader, it's kind of funny to see the enthusiasm in his eyes. It's like those pictures you see when someone, before they're a United States president and then after they serve their term, and they've just aged like 20 years. It just puts years on them. So a little bit of a chuckling moment right there. But with all of that, that wraps up the Friday session, and we jump right into Saturday. So to kick things off for Saturday morning, they go more into this Jesus drama. This thing is a absolute slog to get through. But they talk about that, and then they have the bright-eyed, no one says bright-eyed idea. It's just the bright idea. I don't know what's wrong with my brain. Maybe it's these bright lights. But they have the bright idea of going through this incredibly boring Jesus production and then having a boring symposium where the basis for that is going to be replaying long drawn-out clips from the thing that they just showed. It doesn't even make any freaking sense whatsoever. So they did all of that, and then they did have a couple of little video productions doing some interviews, which I did find a bit curious in some of the things that they said. In particular, this one guy who thought that he received some type of blessing because he didn't go to university.
I always wanted to use my youth to please Jehovah. But I was also concerned about being able to care for my parents and my brothers financially. In the country where I grew up, a common goal was to go to university, to get a good job and look after your parents. It was a difficult dilemma. During that time, we had an assembly, and one of the speakers highlighted Ephesians 3 verse 20, which shows that Jehovah will give us much more than what we need if we put kingdom interests first. That really touched my heart. And from that moment, I decided to enter the full-time service and not to go to university. I chose to follow a technical course that would give me the practical aptitudes that could help me to find a job. At first, my family wasn't pleased with my decision. Even people in the congregation tried to change my mind. In 2016, 3 years after I decided not to go to university, my father passed away. That was devastating, because we loved him very much, and he was the principal breadwinner in the family. If I had gone to university, I would have still been a student when I lost my father, and I would not have been able to look after my family. But because of the technical course that I took, I was able to find work that allowed me to support my family.
Watchtower is so clearly desperate, trying to convince people why it's a good idea to be a Jehovah's Witness against all of the mountains of evidence against that proposition, that they're whipping out stuff like this. What are you even talking about? Oh man, well, I was able to take care of my family because I didn't go to university. Okay, how many people struggle to take care of their family because they didn't go to university at the advice of Watchtower? I'm guessing if you put those into a graph, you'd find out that the advice given to people to not pursue not only just university, mind you, it's not just about that, because, say what you will about going to university and the efficacy of actually getting a well-paying job, good paying job, but what about people that just don't advance their career? What about people that don't accept job opportunities? What about people that put kingdom interests first? If you put all of those factors and put it onto a graph, you're going to find very, very clear evidence that listening to Watchtower will always make it harder for you to take care of your family. So the Saturday morning session concludes with more talks showing clips from the Jesus drama. I know that things are a little more exciting, usually a little more exciting with the Jehovah's Witness conventions, because they have a lot of real world situations and depictions and little skits that they'll put together. But this time, not quite as much. It's just referencing this boring, painfully boring Jesus drama and then talking about the painfully boring Jesus drama. Anyway, so after those conclude, then they jump right over into the baptism talk, which we've all heard a million different times, so won't be bothered with any of that nonsense. So then that leads us right into the Saturday afternoon. And the Saturday afternoon really kicks off with some craziness by giving more talks referencing the good news according to Jesus. And if the first symposium wasn't boring enough talking about messianic prophecies, they thought, man, that was so good, I think I'll have it a second time. It's like that SpongeBob episode. Yep, they just give another symposium talking about messianic prophecies, showing clips from the Jesus drama and guys talking about that. Interlaced between that is a semi-interesting, I made a whole video about it, but a little interview talking to two different women that grew up with not as Jehovah's Witnesses, but were later on converted for various reasons. Wasn't terribly interesting, but that was thrown into the mix. To close out the Saturday afternoon session, we get a fascinating spectacle. A real barrage of nonsense from one of my favorite people ever to bless JW Broadcasting, Kenneth Flodine. He is going on about what smells good and what smells bad, some garbage trucks. It's a wild talk. If you're into just weird, wacky cult people saying weird and wacky stuff, give this talk a listen. But he does bring into the Thunderdome here a couple of interesting dramatizations about some of the challenges Jehovah's Witnesses face.
I like to feel my best. Okay, let's get you out of this chair. For others, and for myself.
Nice work, Poppy.
Hey, thanks.
Some cardio, then we'll go to the service group?
Yeah, sounds good. Oh, hey, check out the sculpting routine for next week.
Hey girl, sculpt your body and drive men crazy with this high-intensity workout.
What? She's certainly proud of her physique.
She's got millions of followers.
Yeah, I can see why.
She gets noticed. What's so wrong with a little attention? We've got our daily bread. Ready to go?
Yeah. And we're making ends meet. Alex. But a little extra would go a long way. You like this one? Yeah. Work from home. Sell to your family and friends. We can work from home. Yeah. And with all the friends in the congregation, our family is huge. This kind of work was made for us, right, little man?
Dinner's almost ready.
Great.
I'm just about done with the bookwork.
Did we cover everything?
Just barely. You know, I was thinking, that job that just came in. You said they wanted fast and offered to pay us in cash?
Yeah, but we'll work hard however they pay us.
What if we take the cash and consider it a side job? not part of the business.
So keep it off the books.
Taxes took so much last year. Look, here's how much we'd save. Things wouldn't be so tight. Does the government even care about what small businesses pay?
That kind of money wouldn't mean much to them. It would mean the world to us.
Now, I've already talked about these to death, so nope, we're not going on any more rants. I've done my fair share of ranting throughout this convention and talking about gym clothes and this, that, and the third, but because we are doing the roundup here, I just thought, we should at least give it one more go-around. Now, as far as just one last thing to say about it, I just think it's really sad. Jehovah's Witnesses, they don't get anything to themselves. Like, not even your own body is just something that you can get away from the Watchtower indoctrination, always having to be paranoid about breaking rules and always being worried about not doing enough for them. And you go to the gym just to have some me time, to listen to some music, to decompress, and to work on yourself. And Jehovah's Witnesses don't even get that. They can't even just think about themselves for an hour and a half every day. Nope. That would be being selfish. Are you trying to be attractive? You must want to be attractive so you can draw attention to yourself. You satanic evil person. It is wild. Now, it's not only Ken Flodine who takes part in the nonsense. We also get governing body member. Don't know how he's still here. Don't know how he's still making it. Pretty sure this talk is recorded. Could be wrong on that one, but he is obviously and clearly using a teleprompter. But Sam Hurd gives a talk. I didn't make a video about this one in particular because it's not all that interesting, but he does add a little bit more flair and life to the situations that were created with some of the characters that we met in Ken Flodine's talk.
I'm so happy we did this. Me too. And thanks again for your help with Mom.
Oh yeah, no problem. I'm surprised she lets you out of her sight when you're in town.
I told her that cousin time was essential, even though that's not really a thing, is it? So, I have a question for you.
Okay.
Do you remember Dylan?
From school, yeah. Why?
Well, let's say, hypothetically, that I ran into him yesterday, and within seconds he was asking about you.
Oh no.
So, if I very literally gave him your number, you wouldn't be mad, right?
We can put it back together in the next hour. That'd be great.
Aaron.
Hey, Mr. Shaw.
Great to see you. Can I get your help with something?
Sure.
Excellent. I'm glad I caught you.
What can I do for you?
So, we have city council elections coming up, and I have a proposition that could benefit the both of us. I'm going to run for city councilor, and I want to feature your business, really you, in my election campaign. Now, we used your profile photo for a mock-up, but we'll have a photo shoot.
Come on, Poppy. He's a good guy. Just talk to him. Why not?
You went to meetings long enough to know why.
No, this is not a Jehovah's Witness thing. You don't have to marry him just because he texts you. This is just about, being with someone.
Maisie, you know I live my life by Bible principles.
Listen, I'm being serious, okay? You've taken good care of yourself. But we're on the wrong side of 30, girl.
We do not see things the same way.
Don't you deserve to be happy?
You represent what's good about our community. And I want others to know that I'll have their back the same way that I've had yours. This type of exposure could do wonders for you.
Thank you so much for your kind words. But let me explain why I'll have to decline.
You're overthinking this. It's not about forever. You just don't need to spend the best years of your life alone.
Maisie, of course I want to find someone someday. But when I do, I want them to believe what I believe. That serving Jehovah's the most important thing in life.
It's just, you're gonna pass up every opportunity.
Thank you for caring about me, but really, I'm okay.
I give my complete support to God's kingdom. That's why I remain neutral when it comes to politics.
I just don't understand.
Well, I'd be happy to share more if you'd like. There's an article
that won't be necessary. I have to say, I'm really disappointed by all of this, especially after everything that I've done for you. I really hope you'll reconsider.
Thank you for respecting my beliefs. I can assure you that I won't.
I'm gonna have to think about what this means for us going forward. Aaron, I hope we can get past this.
I don't get it. At all. But at the end of the day, I just want you to be happy.
I am happy, and I will be if I stick with Jehovah. That's what I want.
Okay. I can respect that. But you may need to block him.
I can't believe you gave him my number.
I'm sorry.
I just found this fascinating. How are they going to say that just being featured as an honest business is going to be participating in politics? It's not voting. You're not necessarily endorsing a candidate. He's the one endorsing you. So if a political entity endorses your business, that would be bad? Huh. I wonder then why the Jehovah's Witnesses might have allegedly commissioned a research study to be done about Jehovah's Witnesses from Sheffield University. Are they going to point to a satanic evil organization and be like, well, look at what this organization, look at this endorsement that we get from the European Court of Human Rights. Look at this endorsement that we got from this university. They don't think our practices are so bad. Look at this group called Cessner. They think we're doing a bang-up job. Doesn't Watchtower go out of their way to try and receive endorsements from political entities or secular entities, if you will? And yet if an individual Jehovah's Witness wants to do that, somehow they're listening to the voice of Satan? Honestly, if you're still a Jehovah's Witness after watching all of this gobbledygook, I mean, I try and have compassion because I was there once. I walked in your shoes. I lived that life. But it is getting really outstandingly obvious how these people are speaking out of both sides of their mouths. And I gotta wonder, at what point is it kind of your fault if you're still a Jehovah's Witness? I'm not fully in that mindset yet, but I'm inching and getting closer to that. Because their whole message is getting so over the top and outrageous when any Jehovah's Witness could just think about it for a second and point to an example of the Watchtower using a secular or political entity as an endorsement for their organization. And then think to themselves, wait, but I can't do that myself? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But anyway, not a lot in the Watchtower organization does make a lot of sense. With all of that, that wraps up Saturday, so on to Sunday, where I wonder what we're going to talk about. Well, I bet you feel like a real fool right now, because you thought we were talking about the Jesus drama, and we're not. We're actually talking about the real lives of Jehovah's Witnesses, and contestant number 1 is going to tell her story, which is horribly sad.
In Hebrews 6 and verse 19, Paul speaks about hope, comparing it to an anchor. Just as an anchor keeps a ship steady, hope helps me endure difficult times. One Sunday, Costas delivered the final talk. And shortly after that, early Monday morning, it was time to go to the hospital to give birth to Evie. Sadly, things did not turn out the way we had hoped. Only a year and a half later, we lost Evie to death. We've never stopped thinking about our daughter. This has affected us deeply. Thinking about the hope we have of a resurrection is something that does really help me. I think everyone wants that, but I have one more reason to want it. I really want the new system to come. The love that we have for people has helped us to not focus on when the end will come. I've been able to help many people to come to know Jehovah and to serve him. That is an indescribable joy that I have today in this system. However, an even greater blessing that I am looking forward to is welcoming Evie back so that I can also teach her.
This is a perfect example of how Jehovah's Witnesses are being taunted, led along with the gold carrot The carrot and the stick. They're just walking along trying to get this carrot. Don't you want to see someone that you love that died? Don't you want to see them again? Now, something that they didn't bring up, and I don't know if this is guilt by omission or something along those lines. How did her child die? Was that because of not receiving a blood transfusion? Now, this is when someone inevitably will go down in the comments and say, well, actually, that's technically illegal and no child has ever died because it would be illegal for that to happen. When there's literally, I don't understand that comment and why it always comes up whenever I mention this, but there are examples on jw.org where they are applauding the bravery of parents who let their children die because of refusing a blood transfusion. I don't really know what we're talking about. One is too many. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Just one curious question about this whole story, though, was the reason that her child passed, was that because of the medical choices that the parents made? And if the organization is using that as a way to keep people in there, it's just foul on so many different levels. And another thing that's foul on so many different levels is how Jehovah's Witnesses treat and think about and talk to and talk about people who aren't just straight.
I always had a good relationship with everyone in my class, and I always wanted to keep it that way. I wanted to be liked, I wanted to be accepted, I wanted to feel that people want to talk to me. All my classmates and teachers knew my stand on certain beliefs when it came to topics about neutrality or celebrations, but of course, with age, certain topics changed that I wasn't prepared for, and it made me a bit scared that I won't be liked anymore and that I'm going against the grain. A new girl joined our class. I was praying to Jehovah for a long time that I want a Bible study, and I thought that this could be my chance. One day we were talking, and she had started to tell me that she's actually interested in a girl, someone that she's wanted to date. And I totally froze. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know if I should say something. The bell rang, so I didn't say anything. But I knew that this topic would come up again. I felt so overwhelmed. How can I talk about something so sensitive, present it in a way that shows that Jehovah is loving and kind, but in the same way, talk about how I don't support it because it goes against my beliefs? So I prayed to Jehovah for him to give me wisdom. I made a goal in my personal study, and I opened the Young People Ask book because it has a topic about homosexuality, and it had great examples about how to talk about it tactfully. And I wrote them down and thought, how could I formulate it in a way that I would say it naturally? So not too long after that, a girl from my class comes up to me, and she's talking about this new couple in the school, and she mentioned that it's two girls. Only this time, I wasn't too shocked, and I was prepared. She said, "You're one of Jehovah's Witnesses, right? So you don't support homosexuality. You hate them, right?" And I calmly explained to her that she is right that we don't support homosexuality, but that does not mean that we hate the people. The Bible doesn't approve of smoking either, but most of my class smokes, and I never ignored them or disrespected them. And it's the same in this situation as well. I saw that she didn't agree with me 100%, but she wasn't upset, and she did listen to me, and I saw that she was thinking it over. And we continued to talk after that. I felt so relieved after that conversation, and I felt that Jehovah was so proud of me, that he was like right there with me, and it just reassured me that when other controversial topics will come up again, Jehovah will help me prepare and season my words with salt so that I could be tactful with the people and share.
If you have nothing nice to say, maybe don't say anything at all, was the old motto when I was growing up. But for current believing Jehovah's Witnesses, I guess they have to talk about how they technically love someone who's a homosexual, but then they'll have to turn around and tell them not to do that, not to live that way, to bury it, to pray the gay away. I don't know, the Jehovah's Witnesses in this topic is truly shameful, and talk to anyone that is LGBTQ, and you will see the reality of what it's like growing up as a Jehovah's Witness. It's not a pleasant experience, and by all accounts that I've heard from people, it's about the worst case situation that you can be in. I did a really interesting, good interview. I think maybe it was my favorite interview. Maybe we shouldn't start ranking things, but with Becoming Justin, we did a live stream. Check that one out. His story is really fascinating and interesting, and he's a cool guy. Now, someone who's not a cool guy is Mark Sanderson. this guy super sucks. But he decided he wanted to show off their $2.5 million video wall screen and talk about how the preaching work is not dead by giving some statistics that weren't really that statisticking very well. He tried to point to Angola and Ecuador and Canada, where there's all of this immense growth in the organization. But one look at the actual data behind those and you find out that it's actually not looking very good for the Jehovah's Witnesses and their overall growth. But they still have to keep trying to beat this into the minds of their people that somehow the preaching work isn't dead. Now, to close out the Sunday morning session, we have the public talk. And this was a real humdinger. This is wild. I tell you, just go and watch the whole video I did about this one, because it is very interesting. But I'll play a couple of clips just to, there's a Jehovah's Witness expression for you, whet your appetite a little bit.
Just as a mirage can deceive a weary traveler, false beliefs can deceive sincere individuals seeking spiritual truth, waters of truth. But her example shows us that even sincere, honest-hearted people can be misled by simply accepting what's been passed down to us through generations or through families or what's popular in our community. Is that what we want to do? Would that be using our power of reason? No, it wouldn't. Likewise, what you are experiencing here is not a mirage. It's real. We are real people wanting to help you. It's real. This convention is pure worship. You found the truth. This is it. Pure worship. What's at the bottom of the mountain? Nothing but tables of vomit. And yet, up top, we are sucking in the beautiful, clean, fresh air of pure worship.
A fascinating talk. I don't know why you would want to try and teach Jehovah's Witnesses how to discover whether or not their beliefs are true. Because if they take those tools that you give them and start asking themselves those questions, they will very quickly, and I mean, as someone who's experienced this, very quickly find out that everything that you teach is a bunch of garbage, a bunch of crap. And they might just wake up from that. So I don't know what to think about that talk entirely. I genuinely believe if I was a Jehovah's Witness and I sat there and I listened to it, it might just be the last straw. It might be that thing that finally gets me to start asking questions and eventually wake up. So not really sure why they did it, but they did it. And I'm sure they're very proud of it. So yippee. And this transitions into another Jesus drama. So people can sit there and look at people staring off into the distance pensively, because that is the most succinct way I can say what this drama is all about. Yeah. But after that, we get governing body member Jeffrey Jackson, who is trying to instruct people on what the spiritual temple is. The outline for this appears to be from a 2023 Watchtower article, which they're kind of just reusing. The whole talk in and of itself is slowly a build up into some more interesting points. I did make a separate video about this talk specifically, but I did find a few interesting occasions where I think they are making this attempt to replace the Bible entirely, if you will, and point people towards jw.org. One of the best examples that I could find is that how they used to talk about this water basin outside of this hypothetical temple, or the typical temple, and leading into the antitypical temple. Sorry, we won't get into the weeds here, but there's this copper water basin. And they used to say that this water basin was the Bible, because that would help cleanse the anointed, and they could look into the pond of the barrel thing and see their own reflection, and they could basically use the Bible as a mirror and as a sponge, as a loofah, to make sure they were spiritually clean. But now when they talk about it, They showed an image of someone on jw.org with their iPad and the Bible off to the side. And then when he's talking about, instead of talking about reading what Jesus has to say from the Bible, he is saying, and how wonderful it is that we have this new Good News According to Jesus drama. Why read the account when we can watch people staring off into the distance pensively by our production of it? Very strange. And then when it comes to the production of this drama, a question literally every single Jehovah's Witness is going to be asking themselves is,
why has the governing body spent millions of dollars on preparing this Good News According to Jesus? Do you know the answer? I think you know the answer, don't you? It's a fantastic way to help us to learn more about Jesus and the love Jehovah has shown through Jesus. And just looking at it, it helps us, stimulates our thinking. I'm sure I'm not the only one, you know?
I think the kids these days call that saying the quiet part out loud. I don't think you're supposed to remind people that the governing body are the ones spending these millions of dollars, because they might ask some questions surrounding why that's the case. Why is it just a select few people ultimately making these big financial decisions for the entirety of the organization? Anyway, that wraps up the entirety of the 2025 Pure Worship Convention. Again, if you missed it, don't know how you would have, but if you did, there is a playlist on the channel where I have a more detailed breakdown of all of the various things that I skimmed over here today. And yeah, I'll try and put timestamps if you're looking for anything in particular. With all of that being said, stay safe, be kind, and don't forget to spend more time loving the things you love than hating the things you hate. And you better have a good ass day.